291. 291. The great physician now is near, the sympathizing Jesus. He speaks the drooping heart to cheer. Oh, hear the voice of Jesus. Sweetest note in seraph's song, sweetest name on mortal tongue, sweetest carol ever sung, Jesus, blessed Jesus. I love the blessed Savior's name, I love. All glory to the dying Lamb. I now believe in Jesus. I love the blessed Savior's name. I love the name of Jesus. Sweetest note in seraph's song, sweetest name on mortal tongue, sweetest carol ever sung, Jesus, blessed Jesus. His name dispels my guilt and fear, no other name but Jesus. Oh, how my soul delights to hear the charming name of Jesus. Sweetest note in seraph's song, sweetest name on mortal tongue, sweetest carol ever sung, Jesus, blessed Jesus. And when to that bright world above we rise to see our Jesus, we'll sing around the throne above His name, the name of Jesus. Sweetest note in seraph's song, sweetest name on mortal tongue, sweetest carol ever sung, Jesus, blessed Jesus. 678. 678 be the song for lesson this morning. And if it's convenient, let's stand together as we sing. More about Jesus would I know, more of His grace to others show, more of His saving fullness see, more of His love who died for me. More about Jesus, more about Jesus, more of His saving fullness see, more of His love who died for me. More about Jesus, let me learn, more of His holy Brother Clark.
It's good to be here for homecoming, isn't it?
Amen.
You know, Margaret and I haven't been here in about a year. And so we came back and all these improved. It's nice. But it's nice to be back with you guys again. You know, as we travel around, we get amazed at how small the Christian community is. Because we travel, and I'm going to talk about that just a little bit, and we almost always find somebody we know. We were on the John Cabot Trail in Nova Scotia and met a couple and had lunch with them, and then met them later in Dallas at a church service. It's just amazing how small the community. And then I find out that Margot's younger sister went to school over here with Don, isn't it? Dan, yes, with Dan. Yeah, and it's just, it also, hearing when he graduated made me realize how much younger he is than I am. Well, just put it this way, Margot's little sister is 13 years younger than she is, so that kind of gives you an idea. Well, welcome everybody. I want to tell you just a few things about us. You see that brood there? That's our grandchildren. And 9 years, this is our 9th year for Camp Clark. And we take our grandchildren and we have camp. And there we sing and we talk about the Lord and pray. But we also take little train rides and go swimming and do that kind of thing. This year, it was at Oklahoma. And this was started by her mother, who our sons, 3 sons, went to Camp Garrett. And after the 2 older ones there, the young lady on the right will attend Evelyn Christian this year. And she told us the other day, she said, that doesn't mean that I'm not getting to come to Camp Clark every year. And we said, sure. But you know, I like the song, We Are Family. We're family. All of us here are family. When Jesus was asked the question about his brothers and sisters, here's what he said. Matthew 12:49. Pointing to his disciples, he said, here are my mother and my brothers, for whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. I never feel unwelcome when I attend the worship service of the Lord's people. Never. Whether it's in Minnesota, Alabama, I always feel welcome. We are each and every. I want to mention just what we've been doing recently. I can't believe it's been a year since, and it's so neat for you to ask me back. Margaret and I have been sojourning. We were in Maui for a month, in the month of February, where I preached there. They're a small congregation like this one who really can't afford a real preacher, so they asked me to come. And we'll spend a month, and I know that that's pretty neat duty being in Maui, but it's a small, struggling church of about 15 members. But God bless them, I'm so proud of them. You know Lahaina, which is in Maui, burned down. It burned to the ground. It was the ancient city in Maui. And these people in that church opened their building, they opened their pantry, they let people spend the night, they went there to take fuel to them. They used that opportunity, and the result is they grew. They grew at the Maui Church of Christ. After that, we went to Mobile Christian School, where we worked there, and that's such a good ministry, I believe. And then we went to Theodore Church of Christ, where we helped conduct a VBS, and we knocked on 500 doors asking people to come. And, you know, it wasn't all that successful, but, you know, we did what we could do. And that's kind of where we're at. So now we're here. After next Sunday, we'll leave and go to Red River to help at the Red River Family Encampment as a sojourner. And then after that, we're going to Nashville, Tennessee to help with the sojourn up there at the Creve Church of Christ. So it's been a good year for us. It's been a good year. But we are glad to be here. My lessons I call Christ applied. I'm not a scholar like Calvin Warpula. What a man that has so much talent and ability. But my job is to try to encourage people. I want to encourage you, and I want you to encourage me. My talent is to give encouragement. The Bible teaches that we all have different talents. I think my talent is to encourage. And that's what I strive to do as I go about using the talent that the Lord has given me. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. That's our job, is to build each other up, to help each other through the hard times, to help each other through the good times, the questioning times, the doubting times. We are to encourage each other and build each other up. And I feel like that's my ministry. And in the middle of that, there's a warning. If you think you are standing firm, be careful and don't fall. We have to be careful. We have to be careful and encourage each other, because we can fall. So here's the question I have for my lesson this morning. How do we remain faithful in a discouraging and in a doubtful world? Well, I'm not here to beat anybody up. I'm here to tell you that the best motivator to keep us on the straight path is for us to love each other, to care for each other. I want to tell you something. My children, I didn't want my children to be afraid of me. I wanted them to love me. And I'm very proud of my children and very proud of my grandchildren. And so the best motivation, I think, in life is not to be scared to death of God, but to love God and to know what He has in store for us and where we are going. And that's what my lesson is about this morning. It comes from Hebrews 12:1. Let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us. Run how? With perseverance. To continue. Now, I'm going to present to you a word that us old folks will remember. You remember when preachers used to talk about exhortation? I'm going to exhort you. You don't hear that word much anymore. But it was used quite commonly. And it's used in the King James Version, and I'm going to be using the King James Version some this morning, where 1 Timothy 4:13 says, "Till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, and to doctrine." To exhort one another. It's a forgotten word. It's a word that's not used very often. You ever led a song of exhortation? Well, you're going to in a few minutes. I can remember preachers announcing that. We're going to sing a song of exhortation. And it's a good word. It's a word that's rich in meaning. And it suggests many different things, but it suggests encouragement. It suggests spur on. What do you mean spur on? I mean keep going. Keep going. It suggests to persuade ourselves and others to continue to live this life. It also suggests to admonish. To admonish. We got to help each other stay on the straight and narrow. And maybe even prod. Sometimes we may even have to have a small intervention with a brother or sister to let them know that we want them back and that we need them. And that's what exhortation is about. Of the 305 verses in Hebrews, 172 are exhortation verses. Hebrews is a wonderful book for encouragement and persuasion. I was at Evelyn Christian a long time ago. Dan probably doesn't remember Neil Lightfoot, but he was, do you? One of my professors took prison epistles under him and took Greek under him. The Greek like to kill me. Anyway, to make a long story short, this is what Brother Lightfoot said. Hebrews is a sustained exhortation for Christians to hold on to their faith. And I think he's right. It's a sustained exhortation for us to encourage, spur on, admonish, prod each of us. So we're going to look. I'm going to go to the King James Version, so you're welcome to read along with me when we talk about exhortation this morning. Hebrews 12:1 from the King James Version. Wherefore, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. And the next verse, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. And then verse 3, for consider him that endured such contradiction against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. Those are words of exhortation. Exhortation. Now, I think we all look pretty good this morning here. Take a look. Look around. Now, there's a few wrinkles, you know. What difference does that make? We all look pretty good here this morning, don't we? But you know, I don't think really God cares much about whether I have wrinkles or not. Because this is what God is looking at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That's what Samuel said when he was looking for a king and the sons of Jesse were going in front of him. He said, the Lord looks on the heart. So I'd like to think that while we may look good outwardly, the Lord's looking right inside of us. And he sees our heart. And that brings a special obligation to us. So as the Lord looks at me, inside me, and as he looks inside of you, what does he see? What does he see? What we just read was that we are to lay aside every weight. What are weights? Those are things that are dragging us down, that are holding us back, that are keeping us from having the relationship with God that we should have. They may be outward acts, but you know what? They may be acts of motions of intentions and motives in the heart. Because God is looking inside of us, and the King James Version says, now, lay aside those weights. So, what's going on this morning in you? With this many people, there's probably some of these things that may be going on. Maybe there are times you just want to give up. And life's just too hard. Maybe there are times when we're discouraged. I don't care how faithful we are, we can get discouraged. So we need to encourage each other. Maybe there's questioning. Sometimes you say, why did God allow that to happen? I know that. I've asked those questions. God, why did this happen in my life? Maybe there are times when we have disappointment. Maybe it's in ourselves, or maybe it's in someone else or someone we love. Maybe there are times when we've got off into a lifestyle that's a little destructive. Maybe we're weighed down by life. I'm going to read to you again from Hebrews. And I'm going to read it in a way that I hope that will help all of us to pay attention. And I'm going to read it from the NIV because it's a little easier to understand. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and what? Lose heart. Jesus. Fix your eyes on Jesus. That's what Hebrews is encouraging us to do. You know, the cloud of witnesses he's talking about probably went back to people like Moses, David. Maybe it's us and each other. Maybe we're in that cloud as we try to encourage one another. But here's some things we need to realize. All of those people, they were just people, and then some of them made bad choices. David made some bad choices, didn't he? Moses made a bad choice when he struck that rock. Uzzah made a bad choice when he touched the Ark of the Covenant. There's all kinds of bad choices, but they were flawed people, just like us, because I've made some bad choices. And I'll bet you have too. But here's the thing. They didn't give up. They persevered. They lived out their life. And if you read Hebrews, you read about the promises God made, which didn't even come true in their lifetime. But they still pursued. Remember Abraham? Your descendants would be like the sands. He didn't see that. But he didn't give up. Because he knew that eventually it would come true. So, as we look at the King James Version, and as we look at the NIV, the King James Version says, lay aside every weight. The NIV says, let us throw off everything that hinders. What gets in our way of our faith? The King James Version says, the sin which doth easily so beset us. We used to talk about besetting sins. I think the NIV makes it a little clearer when it says, and the sin that so easily entangles. Sin entangles us, takes us away from our goal and our perseverance. The King James Version, and let us run with patience, and the NIV says it the way I like, let us run with perseverance. Now, none of us are going to run very fast anymore. But we're going to persevere. And we're going to keep running. And we're going to keep running until it's over. I don't know what you're facing this moment. I really don't. But I have this word of advice. Don't give up. I'm almost 77. My dad died at 78. And right now, I'm going to tell you something. I've reached the point, I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to die in the Lord. I don't care what you see on television and all these documentaries that say, oh, you know, the earth came about by accident and it bumped into another planet and therefore the oceans came about. Nothing, I don't care how brilliant Steve Hawkins is. I'm going to be a Christian till the day I die. And I want you to help me to persevere. This is the rest of my lessons. I'm almost done with my lesson today. And next week I'm going to talk about the weight of shame and guilt and how that can weigh us down and keep us from persevering. And then when Mike asks me back, I'm going to preach about being wounded and pride and fear. This is a 5-lesson series that I put together when I went to Maui. But we'll just save those. But next week I'm going to talk about how shame and guilt can hold us back. And it shouldn't. And it shouldn't. So let me go back here. 1 Timothy 4:13. Till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, and to doctrine. And you can get your songbooks out and get ready. Because we're going to sing a song of exhortation. And if you need to discuss anything with me, feel free to do so. If you have any kind of need, we can. If you want it to be private, we'll pray for you privately. If you want to talk to this congregation and express something to them, that's what they're here for. So come as we sing a song of invitation.
Kneel at the cross, Christ will meet you there. He intercedes for you. Lift up your voice, leave with him your care, and begin life anew. Kneel at the cross, kneel at the cross, leave every care, kneel at the cross, Jesus will meet you there. Kneel at the cross, there's room for all who would his glory share. Bliss there awaits, harm can ne'er befall those who are anchored there. Kneel at the cross, leave every care, kneel at the cross, Jesus will meet you there. Kneel at the cross, give your idols up, look up to realms above. Turn not again to my sparkling cup, trust always in his love. Kneel at the cross, leave every care, kneel at the cross, Jesus will meet you there. Thank you. Appreciate that lesson.